Your toddler throws themselves on the floor screaming, all because you gave them the blue cup instead of the red one. And in that moment of chaos, you can't help but wonder, is this just a normal tantrum or a sign of something more? You've probably seen articles about ADHD, and sorting out what's typical toddler behavior from a real neurodevelopmental issue can feel confusing and, honestly, a little scary. Well, in this video, we're going to cut through that noise. We'll briefly cover what's happening in a toddler's developing brain during a tantrum, and then we will break down the 7 evidence-based signs that can help you distinguish between a normal developmental stage and the persistent patterns that might point to ADHD. Before we label behavior, we have to understand where it comes from. For toddlers, most of their dramatic and confusing behavior comes from their very unfinished brain. Specifically, we're talking about the prefrontal cortex. Think of it as the brain's CEO, or its main braking system. It's in charge of impulse control, planning, and managing big feelings. In a toddler's brain, this critical area is under major construction. This means that while your toddler knows they shouldn't throw their food, the impulse to do it is like a speeding car, and the part of their brain that's supposed to slam on the brakes isn't reliable yet. This is why all toddlers have periods of high energy, short attention spans, and impulsivity. A typical toddler tantrum is a direct result of this. It's a raw form of communication when a child doesn't yet have the words to deal with huge emotions like frustration or disappointment. It's often triggered by something specific. They want a cookie, they're tired, or they don't want to leave the park. These fits are usually brief, and once the moment passes, they recover and move on. This is the baseline for typical toddler behavior. One of the most powerful tools for a parent is learning the difference between a tantrum and a meltdown. A tantrum has a mission. A child is having a tantrum because they want something or want to avoid something. They're frustrated, and they're trying to exert some control over their world. During a tantrum, the child is still aware of their surroundings and might even glance at you to see if their strategy is working. It often stops when they get what they want or realize it's not working. A meltdown, on the other hand, is a reaction to being completely overwhelmed. Their developing nervous system has been pushed past its breaking point by sensory overload, emotional distress, or exhaustion. During a meltdown, the child isn't in control anymore. They are in a state of neurological panic. It's like a brain circuit just blew a fuse. While any kid can have a meltdown, frequent, intense meltdowns are a more significant sign of an underlying neurodevelopmental difference like ADHD. That's because emotional dysregulation is a core feature of the condition. All right, let's get specific. While only a professional can diagnose, researchers have identified key patterns that help separate typical toddler behavior from the early signs of ADHD. It's not about a single symptom, but about the frequency, intensity, and consistency of the behaviors across different situations. Sign 1. Motor hyperactivity and fidgeting. First is the classic sign of being driven by a motor. As outlined in the DSM-5, this includes constant fidgeting or squirming, leaving their chair when expected to sit, excessive talking, and an inability to play quietly. To see this, observe them in a sit-down situation, like at a restaurant or during story time. Are they constantly up and down? Watch their hands and feet. Are they always tapping or wiggling? A key difference from typical toddler energy is that this hyperactivity is persistent and inappropriate for the setting. It happens at home, at daycare, and at the grocery store. It's not just situational. This restlessness is often an attempt to regulate. Some children find that staying completely still can feel physically uncomfortable, and the movement actually helps them focus. Sign 2. Emotional dysregulation. This goes far beyond typical toddler moodiness. A core feature of ADHD is a struggle with top-down emotional control. meaning that intense feelings can completely hijack the brain before the logical part can weigh in. This manifests as rapid and severe mood swings, a very low tolerance for frustration, and being quick to anger. Research by Dr. Russell A. Barkley highlights this as a primary challenge in ADHD, where the brain struggles to regulate raw emotional expression. This isn't just crying over a broken toy. It's a consistent pattern of inconsolable rage over minor setbacks. The emotional reactions are consistently and significantly out of proportion to the situation, with emotions going from 0 to 100 in a flash. Once upset, it may take them a much harder time to calm down compared to their peers, sometimes derailing the entire afternoon. This pattern is often visible in multiple settings, like at home, daycare, and with family. Sign 3. Sleep disturbances. ADHD is often considered a 24-hour disorder because the brain's regulation challenges don't stop at bedtime. Studies show that up to 70 to 75% of children with ADHD suffer from sleep problems. Parents may notice significant bedtime resistance that goes beyond typical toddler stalling. It can also include a long delay in falling asleep, frequent and restless awakenings, or intense difficulty waking in the morning. This is often due to an inability for the brain to settle down. To spot a consistent pattern versus just a few bad nights, you could keep a simple sleep log for a week or two. Note what time bedtime starts, how long it takes for your child to actually fall asleep, how many times they wake up, and their general mood upon waking. This creates a vicious cycle, as sleep deprivation is proven to worsen inattention, hyperactivity, and emotional dysregulation the following day. Sign 4. Rejection-sensitive dysphoria, RSD. This is an extreme emotional sensitivity and pain triggered by the perception of being rejected, criticized, or failing. While a typical toddler gets sad if a friend doesn't want to share, a child with RSD may experience that moment as intensely, almost physically, painful. This can look like explosive rage or inconsolable crying in response to gentle correction, or spiraling into intense shame over a small mistake, like spilling a drink. You might observe the aftermath of correction. Does a gentle, "no thank you," lead to a small pout, or a complete emotional collapse that lasts a long time? While playing with peers, do they bounce back quickly from a social stumble, or does one rejection shut them down for the rest of the day? They might start avoiding new things for fear of failing, or become obsessive people-pleasers to avoid disapproval at all costs. It's also important to note if they talk about being bad or stupid after minor mistakes. Some research suggests that up to 99% of people with ADHD experience RSD, stemming from a nervous system that reacts more severely to social and emotional triggers. Sign 5. Mental restlessness and racing thoughts. While we often think of hyperactivity as running and climbing, it also occurs in the mind. Children with ADHD may experience their thoughts as constantly on the go or buzzy, with multiple ideas happening at once. For a toddler who can't articulate this, it looks like behavior. During playtime, you might notice they flit between toys in a disorganized way, rather than engaging for an age-appropriate amount of time. When you read a book, they may be unable to follow the story, interrupting with a dozen off-topic questions and observations. Research from 2023 helps distinguish this from simple daydreaming, noting that in ADHD, these racing thoughts are often linked to emotional highs and lows. It's a ceaseless mental activity that can feel overwhelming and makes it incredibly hard to focus on any single thought or task. This pattern isn't about a lack of interest, but an inability to quiet their inner world. Sign 6. Mental fog and daydreaming, sluggish cognitive tempo. Not all children with potential ADHD are hyperactive. Some present in a completely different way, appearing daydreamy, spacey, or lost in their own world. This presentation, which some researchers like Dr. Russell Barkley refer to as sluggish cognitive tempo, SCT, or concentration deficit disorder, CDD. Include signs like frequent staring, appearing mentally foggy, and being slow to process information. For a toddler, this might look like being the last one in their daycare class to follow an instruction. You might give a simple two-step instruction like, please pick up your teddy bear and put it in the basket, and notice they get lost after the first step. In group settings, they may seem to drift off during activities that aren't highly stimulating. This is not defiance. The child isn't refusing. Their brain is genuinely processing information more slowly. Sign 7. Social masking, the social chameleon. Even at a young age, some children with ADHD spend an enormous amount of energy trying to hide their symptoms and appear neurotypical. This is called masking, and it's a subconscious attempt to fit in and avoid judgment. For a toddler, this can look like mimicking how their peers talk and play in a very deliberate way, forcing themselves to make eye contact even when it's uncomfortable, or actively suppressing the natural urge to fidget. They might watch other children on the perimeter of the playground to learn the rules before joining in, desperate not to do it wrong. This can lead to a Jekyll and Hyde phenomenon. Teachers might describe them as a quiet, model student, while at home, they are hyperactive and emotionally explosive. This major difference in behavior between settings can be a strong indicator of masking. Because masking is an exhausting, round-the-clock performance, it can lead to severe fatigue and explosive after-school meltdowns, because they've held it together all day. If this video armed you with some new understanding, please subscribe for more evidence-based content. And more importantly, share your own journey in the comments. Reading each other's stories is a powerful reminder that none of us are in this alone. By working to understand your child's unique brain, you're taking the most powerful step you can to support them on their path.